This is Paul. Yeah. You know, I just thought it was important, right, that without the signature of the petitioner, yes, she doesn't have to acknowledge any of the restraint provisions. She can make up any story she wants because she has no penalty of perjury. I, as a respondent, even though she didn't say that I had received actual notice of the hearing, in fact, she didn't say that the order was issued in accordance with the full faith and credit provisions of the Violence Against Women's Act. She didn't acknowledge the court as having jurisdiction over herself, the minors of the subject matter. See, the petitioner doesn't have to acknowledge anything, do she? Mhm. Now, I spent a little time while I was standing in line for an hour and a half to have Thanksgiving dinner. Yes, in the Washington State Legislature's manual. Oh, you know that manual of the Washington State Legislature that I've been emailing? Yes, that didn't respond. Yeah. That you said that I couldn't sue for not contacting the president of insurrection and domestic violence. Now, I put some screen prints, yes, in my drive, and I just thought that we should start with the actual State of Washington Legislative Manual. Oh, 2017, 2018. If you didn't get a copy for yourself, I put a copy on the drive. Yes. Now, in it, in the very beginning of it, it has what's known as the Declaration of Independence. And I thought about King George this morning and how law enforcement's teaching me a lesson that they're going to have me incarcerated. They're going to admit me to a mental facility where the petitioner, yes, allegedly, had filed a two-count criminal complaint where I had some sort of violation of the domestic violence protection order in Britain, Washington, that she herself never acknowledged any of the restraint provisions. How you could say that I was restrained from being in Brennan without her acknowledgement of the copy of the order? Yes, yes, yes. Or I had cyber stalked without her acknowledging that it would be a violation of the protection order if I had emailed her. Yes. But you're going to try me, okay? You're going to find me incompetent, mentally ill, or mentally defective. Yes. Because I don't know the nature and the causes of the criminal complaint against me. Now, when you don't require the acknowledgement of the petitioner, yes, you can make up any lie about me that you want. And if I went to suing her, I couldn't. Yes. Because she's like, well, I didn't acknowledge it. I didn't acknowledge any of the restraint provisions. And every time we filed a police report alleging that you violated the restraint provisions, since I didn't acknowledge them, it wasn't my problem, was it? Now, now, I thought of a king that had called together the legislature and bodies at places unusual. Let's say you didn't meet at the state capitol and we decided to call you together out there in the forest in the middle of nowhere where you could hike out there 20 miles, an unusual place for a state legislature to actually meet. Uncomfortable where there are no seats? Yes, out in the middle of the forest and distant from the depository of their public records. Yes. Now it looks to me like King George back in the day was making it frustrating for those in the state legislature, the legislative bodies. Kind of like you're doing to me. You're asking me to go to court where the petitioner never acknowledged any of the restraint provisions. You're wanting me to appear for a cell hearing that happens to be hours away, and considering my lack of funding, seems to be uncomfortable and distant from where I'm sitting right now. And then you don't acknowledge the actual court order itself, where the petitioner didn't acknowledge any of the restraint provisions, but you keep making me go to court because you are enforcing a criminal complaint where I wasn't in Brennan, Washington, and I didn't email any of the individuals named in the restraint provisions. Yes. Now this says, right, responders restrained having contact whatsoever through email, phone, mail, or any other means. Yes. And using electronic surveillance, cyber stalking. Yes. 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 Harassing, threatening, stalking the petitioner, the minor's named, which is excluded from the petitioner's workplace. Yes. She didn't acknowledge that. In her mind, I could go to her place of work anytime I want. Well, she didn't acknowledge that. Right. School. Daycare, school, the minor's named in the table above. See, the court didn't require an actual signature right now. Did you? You took it upon yourselves to violate my ability as a respondent to say that each and every one of these restraint provisions is not true and correct without the respondent, without the petitioner acknowledging them. Now, I don't want to go to court. I want to have arrested.